You one day in a little toy shop, buy a pack of balloons with the money we got, set them free at the break of dawn, till one by one they were gone. Back at base, bugs in the software flash the message, something's out there, floating in the summer sky. 99 red balloons go by. 99 red balloons floating in the summer sky. It's panic bells, it's red alert. There's something here from somewhere else. The war machine springs to life, opens up one eager eye, focusing it on the sky where 99 red balloons go by. 99 Decision Street, where 99 ministers meet to worry, super scurry, call the troops out in a hurry. This is what we've waited for, this is it boys, this is war. The president is on the line as 99 red balloons go by. 99 nights of the year, right? Super high-tech jet fighters. Everyone's a superhero. Everyone's a Captain Kirk, with orders to identify, to clarify and classify. Scramble in the summer sky as 99 red balloons go by. As 99 red balloons go by. 99 dreams I have had, in every one a red balloon. It's all over and I'm standing pretty in this dust that was a city. If I could find a souvenir just to prove the world was here, and here is a red balloon, I cry for peace and let it go.
If there be but 100 of us remain alive, never shall we under any condition be brought under anybody's idea of a new world order. It is in truth not for honor, nor for glory, certainly not for riches that we are fighting, but for freedom. That one thing alone which no honest person would give up save was life itself. Once we were warrior poets. For now, we must stand for peace. Alex Glenn, I am like the rabbit, the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I'm late. I'm fucking late for a very important date. I'm all over the place, but that's all right. We will somehow get there. How are you guys today? And I'm hungover, by the way. So,
muddling through, my friend, muddling through. We're the with a cheery attitude. Oh, just went funny then.
Well, that's about all we can do is muddle through with a cheery attitude, I think, today. Alex, how are you?
I'm behind, out of control, but I'm not hungover, so that's one plus point in my case.
Oh, you lucky thing, you.
1 out of 2 of us ain't bad. Out of 3 of us.
Oh, well. Yes, well, the boss and I started packing up our stuff in the house yesterday. And, it brings up memories and, good times. And you pick up something, you remember where you got it. And so we called a halt about 4 o'clock. And the boss took the best steak. I never have steak in restaurants because no one can cook it as well as my wife. And we had steak and chips, and we opened champagne, and you could say it went downhill from there. It probably went uphill. I don't know. But I can tell you this: tiny bubbles in the wine make me happy, make me feel just fine until the next morning. So I'm going to confess something now. I am a misanthrope. I fucking hate people. Glenn did a brilliant show on Friday night. Now, if you've not seen that show, you might want to watch it after this one because it will link in perfectly. Hey, William's here. Here he is. So, you haven't missed anything, brother. I'm just started. And I'm hungover. I'm a misanthrope. In Glenn's show on Friday night, he said that it's like we are de-evolving. That people are getting fucking stupid. He's right. Glenn, you're absolutely fucking right.
Yeah.
I mean, people are unbelievably fucking stupid. We've had exposed the fact that the world is run by a very rich pedophile gangster organization and nobody's doing nothing. It's fucking whatever of 14th, 15th of February 2026. And the only person to be arrested over fucking Jeffrey Epstein is some nobody in fucking Holland. Not good enough. Not good enough. People are that fucking stupid. We have cunts who we have chucked off this clan and this Facebook page who now go to Rumble to bitch about us. Why take the time out of your fucking busy life to watch us when all you want to do is bitch? I don't get it. You're dumber than dirt. You ought to just fucking die. And we don't know. That's the best of it. You actually fucking think we don't know. If it was up to me, quite frankly, I would press the big fucking red button, wipe most of the population off the face of the planet, try and get rid of the stupid, and start again. The only difference between me and the billionaire fucking Epstein class is I would leave it to fucking random chance who gets to survive. These cunts, well, they want to pick and choose. They want to be God. The world is literally in the toilet. We've got Keir Starmer, the man who was knighted for protecting the paedophile Jimmy Savile. Let's be honest. The man who's been caught taking fucking gabillions. How does someone become a millionaire on a prime minister's wage? Simple. Corruption. Like all politicians. But he's been caught snogging Lord Ali, who is in the Epstein files. And there's a little matter of the 5 Ukrainian fucking rent boys. A perfectly decent man who just went to Munich to tell the world, oh, Brexit was a mistake, so there's another one for the conspiracy theorists that say he's taking us back into Europe. And by the way, we're going to have to fight fucking Russia. Oh, and isn't it fucking wonderful? On the same motherfucking day that he does that, somehow, Navalny, who died in a Russian fucking prison, the UK's managed to get a hold of fucking his DNA. They can't solve who blew up Nord Stream. We did it. But they can get DNA from a fucking dead Russian in a hyper-secure prison to decide that he was killed by fucking frog toxin from the Amazon. Fuck me! And people believe it! I'm going to pause for breath. William, make sense of the world for me, please.
Oh, good luck with that.
Good luck, yeah.
Yeah, you could have gave me something easier, like, I don't know, breaking into Fort Knox, possibly. But yeah, make sense of it, Jesus. And it's quite incredible, really, when you think, let's say, going back to 2020, when we used to talk about then how insane the world was. I mean, fuck me, what are we, 5, 6 years later? And this is where we're at. Do you know, and it's kind of fitting in terms of what we'll talk about today. Where are we? If we're in a timeline, where exactly are we? Do you know? But yeah, it's organized chaos. That's the that's the best way to put it. But it is chaos. There's no denying that. And I think many times in the past I likened it to 1984, but on steroids. Do you know? 1984 was a watered down version of it. But I've been saying that for the past 5 years. I mean, what do you say now? Do you know, when you think it can't get any worse, when you think it's not going to
it can always get worse.
Yeah, it's like, just wait, do you know?
It's like when you're at work, right? Mm-hmm. And you use the Q word. All's quiet. Never use the Q word at work, because all hell will break fucking loose. Never say it can't get any worse, because it fucking can and does. The so-called European Parliament, which isn't a parliament, they don't have any power, but you know what? They just voted 233 to 200 that men can get pregnant. And I'm not making this shit up. Farmers' government want 4-year-olds to masturbate as part of homework. And are telling 10-year-olds it's okay to transition. You don't have to tell your parents. You can be Rupert the Fridge if you fucking want. And in the midst of that, to be more serious for a second, we are gearing up for war. We're gearing up for war with Russia. In the Munich Security Council, they're making they're not hiding that fact. And the giant Oompa Loompa is trying to get enough pieces on the fucking board to attack Iran in the mother of all air battles, which will turn into the mother of all fucking naval battles, as I've warned. The Bush has had mechanical problems, which is why they've dispatched the Gerald Ford now. But the Gerald Ford's been at sea for over 8 months. That's not good for the crew. It's not good for the ship. And in the meantime, China and Russia, without having to send a single fucking troop, have given Iran, one, the radar systems to spot stealth aircraft, and two, the intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance from satellite to fucking strike at will anything the Americans have. We are literally in the build-up to World War III, and if you cannot see that, you're fucking blind and you're too stupid to fucking live. I hope you go in the first blast, motherfuckers, because I really do hate people. Sorry, Glenn. What do you make of it?
Don't apologise, my friend. Don't apologise for saying the truth. We are fucking de-evolving. Yeah, this world is virtually getting too stupid to live, and now we're hearing talks of we're going to introduce a naval blockade on Russia. We're going to put our mighty ships and stop the Baltic fleet. Yeah, right. Good luck with that. And if it couldn't get any crazier, yesterday another 3.5 million documents were dropped. Another 3.5 million documents from the Epstein files were dumped by the Department of Justice, and apparently this has got the real shit in it. This has got some real satanic shit in it. But they're saying, well, now that Trump's exonerated, now that we know that there's nothing in there about, Trump has done no wrong, we can release the rest of this and you can have at it. You can, well, I mean, obviously, I'm salivating to see what's in this shit. What more's going to come out? But it's yet another tidal wave that's hitting us. So let's see.
It's complete information overload. I've seen some of the photos. Yeah. It doesn't look good for Trump. It really doesn't. And I think there's a lot more to come. What I do know is that the billionaire, the Epstein class, is panicking.
Oh.
And they're panicking so much that Elon of the Musk has decided to give up on Mars for the moment. Not big news, because he says it will take too long. Instead, they're putting all their efforts into building Moonbase Alpha. Alex, are we running out of time?
If they think we're running out of time so much that they're going to change their plans, then I would suggest we potentially are. But I've not seen anything that exonerates Trump, for one, and I've not seen any sign that anyone gives a fuck about anything that's been released. So, I don't know.
Oh, but yeah. No, sorry, mate. I was just going to say, but it's all okay in the world because George Galloway, his wife and children are cavorting around the fucking world in China and Russia and Indonesia, all these exotic places, living at high in hotels and demanding that you fucking donate to them so they can do so.
Yeah.
And Tommy
Yeah.
Robinson, also known as Stephen Yoxley Lennon, Mossad agent,
also left the
who moved his family to Spain 6 years ago and who needs to be in Spain for the next 90 days, otherwise he gets whacked with a huge fucking tax bill. He's out there shouting that ISIS are targeting him. Well, ISIS have never attacked a fucking Israeli Mossad agent, ever. But he wants the gullible, the fucking retarded British fucking asylum-seeking, hating public to send him money. to help him have a high old time in fucking Spain. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord, brother. It's enough to make the blood boil. So I think we should transition into the Lone Gunman. So stay with us, folks. Put up with the music. I don't give a shit. And after this, we'll have some fun. See him wasted in the saddle. He comes riding through your town. He's wearing yesterday's misfortunes like a smile. Once he had a future full of money, love, and dreams, but he spent like it was going out of style. But he just keeps on believing that for better or for worse, he's searching for a shrine he's never found. Never knowing if believing is a lesson or a curse, or if going up is worth coming down. He's a poet and a picker. He's a prophet and a pusher. He's a pilgrim and a preacher, and a problem when he's stoned. He's this walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction. He's taken every wrong direction on a lonely road back home. He has tasted good and evil in the bedrooms and the bars. He's traded in tomorrows for today. He's running from his demons and he's reaching for the stars, leaving everything he's loved along the way. And the world just keeps on turning, so for better or for worse, all he ever gets is older and around. From the rocking of his cradle to the rolling of the hearse, going up's not worth coming down. But he's a poet and a picker. He's a prophet and a pusher. He's a pilgrim and a preacher, and a problem when he's stoned. He's this walking contradiction, partly truth, he's partly fiction. He's taken every wrong direction on a lonely road back home. Welcome, pilgrims. We know you're weary from navigating a world which has gone truly motherfucking insane. The internet is a morass of misinformation, disinformation, AI generated nonsense, snake oil salesmen, shyster shoosters, and just right down delinquents. But somehow you found your way to us today. So do come on in, have a seat by my fire, pour yourself an adult beverage, roll yourself something warm and brown and golden to get through the day. Because today, the Lone Gunman rides again. And I do like a prop. All I can say is, William, I am not your father.
Oh.
we've been
DNA test
talking
needed.
about we've been talking about timelines for the last little while. Last week we were looking at Operation Looking Glass and the possibility that we're coming up to a temporal moment where there is a divergence of timelines. So I gave these guys some homework to do. And I'm sure on the face of it, it seemed he's finally lost his fucking mind. Why is he getting me to look at this shit? Well, now I'll give you a chance to explain what you found. Who wants to start? Glenn, why don't you start, mate? Tell
Oh,
people
God.
what you were looking at and what you
All right.
found.
Yeah, okay. So for this week's show, I've been looking into Star Wars, as if Ian didn't give you a hefty clue there with the lightsaber. But not only looking into Star Wars, oh well, let's just have a look at it. Looking to see if we can draw any parallels to our current world, our current situation, things like that. So let's go back to the beginning. Okay, I like to do this. I always like to start at the beginning. It's usually a very good place to start, according to Mary Poppins, apparently. But there you go. So George Lucas wrote the screenplay for the film in the early 1970s, along with another guy who was his writing partner, a guy called Gary Kurtz. And Lucas wanted to create, he said, he wanted to create a space opera, a kind of cinematic opera. And he wanted to do that, but unfortunately, probably never would have got to do that if it wasn't for the success of quite a low budget film, actually, that he made called American Graffiti. And American Graffiti was loosely based on his younger life. But it was a runaway success. And that film grossed around about 50 million at the box office. And it became at the time, it became a sort of teen culture classic. Everybody was relating to that film. Now, the idea for Star Wars, according to Lucas, was to bring back the kind of space adventures of characters like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, whose stories Lucas, he really adored them as a young boy. So Lucas said that Star Wars was basically aimed at 14 to 15-year-olds. Let's put slide 1 up, please, Alex. And there's the kind of iconic movie poster from the first episode with Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and all the characters there. All right. So the original idea that Lucas wrote down only actually amounted to 12 pages. That's all he had when him and his partner Kurtz sort of schlepped this idea for a script round to various studios, including United Artists and Universal, until finally 20th Century Fox took it up. But big changes were made before the original idea actually made it to the screen. The original Luke Skywalker was a grizzled old general. Slide 2, please, Alex. So there's that kind of idea. This is from a later film, but the idea was that Skywalker was this old general. And Han Solo was a frog-like alien. Slide 3, please, Alex. There we go. That's sort of idea of what Han Solo was supposed to look like. And the dark side of the Force was originally called the Bogan. That was what Lucas wrote. So many characters were added and deleted before the film, was actually brought to the screen, and it went into production, and filming began in Tunisia in 1976. Now, despite what people think, Lucas deliberately started the film at episode 4, A New Hope. It wasn't the fact that they didn't have any money, they had tons of money, but he deliberately started the film at episode 4 in order to sort of make sure that the franchise had the ability to have a backwards or forwards momentum, backwards or forwards story. And that's exactly what we've seen happen. So that's the sort of story of Star Wars creation, just out of interest. And of course, this franchise has run and run and run, with recently virtually a new film every year being brought out. Since the rights were purchased by Disney, who paid Lucas $2.21 billion in cash and 1.85 billion in Disney shares back in 2012. Slide 4, please, Alex. And here's Lucas kind of celebrating that Disney connection. Okay. Now, there's no doubt Lucas made a lot of money. It made him a very rich man indeed. And those original 1.85 billion worth of shares are now worth in excess of 8 billion. Now, there have been rumors just lately that Lucas has died. I think he is 88, but I'm not sure about the truth about that. All right. So let's look at these sort of so that was the origins of the first sort of tranche of films, the first 3 films, A New Hope in 1977, The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, and The Return of the Jedi in 83. Now, as you will recall, if you've ever watched any of them, the films start with these sort of immortal words, "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away." Now, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you'll probably be familiar with that phrase. Now, originally, the whole story was supposed to be narrated by R2-D2. Slide 5, please, Alex. So we can see there's R2-D2, a sort of dustbin-like robot. Now, R2-D2 was originally meant to be telling his story to a race of invisible aliens who actually controlled the Force. And these aliens were called the Wills. And R2-D2 was recounting his story at the kind of end of his life, the end of his the sort of planned redundancy point, which was 2,000 years. So after 2,000 years, he was telling his story. Now, the Wills communicated through a mysterious monastic order called the Guardians of the Wills. But this was all simplified in the film into just the Force. There was just this mysterious force. But the backstory is that it was channeled from these mysterious aliens. But the Force is essentially a spiritual energy that comes from what might be called an alternative plane of existence or a different dimension. Now, in our world, the guardians of the Wills could be seen as the mystery schools, and in particular, the Orphic Mystery School, who were involved in channeling spiritual energy into this world. Energy, sometimes that energy was love and light, and some of that energy could be dark and evil. And each side of that energy granted gifts and powers. This is what the Orphic Mystery School believed. It granted power to their followers and their adepts. Okay, slide 6, please, Alex. And both of these forces were locked in an eternal battle, a battle both spiritual and earthly. Now, in Star Wars, the followers or adepts of each side of this are obviously the Jedi or the Sith. So they represent both sides of these forces. Slide 7, please, Alex. And each of these sides have powerful masters, such as Yoda. Slide 8, please, Alex. There's Yoda. And slide 9, please, Alex. And Darth Vader. Now, so that is the sort of spiritual aspect that is reflected in the mystery school tradition, particularly the Orphic circle and the Orphic mystery school itself, which is far more ancient. Now, another aspect of Star Wars is actually to do with blood and bloodlines. Now, in Star Wars, some people and aliens had special blood with a high percentage of what was called midi-chlorians. And here's a midi-chlorian at slide 10. Now, a midi-chlorian is a sentient, microscopic sentient organism that could actually channel the force and so give an individual special powers and even give them immortality after death. Now, these descended from the Jedi that we see in the film and the Sith that we see in the films descended from others with special blood who were sort of able to wield this power because they had a high count of these midi-chlorians in their blood. And these bloodlines were ancient, and they went back. If you look into the backstory of the film, these bloodlines went back at least 25,000 years to the origins of the Jedi and the Sith. And so again, we see this idea reflected in those who claim to be descendants of, in this world, we see those who claim to be the descendants of the illuminated ones, the chosen ones. And they, because of their blood, are chosen to rule over us ordinary mortals. Slide 11, please, Alex. And we're all familiar with these bloodline families, like the Rothschilds, as we can see here. Are those that hold unimaginable wealth and power, and it's all to do with their bloodlines and the way that they manipulate the bloodlines, even of our own royal family. Now, in Star Wars, they tested the blood of children to see if they got a high midi-chlorian count. And in our world, strangely enough, these so-called elites are also very interested in the blood of children for its special properties. So that's yet another kind of way that you can overlap the two. So that's a sort of look at what you might call the more spiritual or esoteric aspects of Star Wars. But what about comparisons to more tangible material things? Well, this slide 12, please, Alex. This you might recognize as the Death Star, a powerful artificial moon able to destroy whole planets. And this, slide 13, please, Alex. This is our moon, which shares a striking resemblance to the Death Star, especially with the round depression, which on the Death Star was its primary weapon, and on the moon is what we call the Tycho crater. Now, the Death Star is, of course, itself an artificial moon. But this chimes exactly with the theory that seems to be gaining popularity, that our moon may itself be artificially created a long, long time ago, probably far away, and brought into our orbit. So again, Star Wars, real life, there are crossovers and parallels. And I'll give you another one. Slide 14, please, Alex. Now, this is what's called the Baltic Sea anomaly that was discovered in 2011. And this, slide 15, I want you to bear that in mind, remember that. And this is the Millennium Falcon. Of course. Is this just a coincidence? Is this just sort of some kind of weird coincidence? Or did someone know about this in advance? And did, in fact, the Baltic Sea anomaly come from a galaxy far, far away a long time ago? And then there are things like this. They just keep coming. Let's look at slide 16. This is a Star Wars walker, a sort of armored, enormous, almost animal-shaped form. And slide 17. And this is a military robot dog. Again, is this a case of life imitating cinema, or cinema imitating, or, perhaps did someone know about this technology way back in 1983 when the walkers featured in The Empire Strikes Back? That was the first time we sort of saw these walkers. And it goes on and on and on. Obviously, there's the use of robot soldiers. There's artificial intelligence in human robots like C3PO and others, and drones that hunt people. And they're all features that we're beginning to see in the real world. Now, one thing that Star Wars mirrors the real world is in the way the Emperor comes to power. And here's the Emperor Palpatine at slide 18. There he is. Also, his real name is Darth Sidious, but he's the Emperor Palpatine. Now, Palpatine manipulates the political system of the Galactic Republic using the Clone Wars as cover to gain emergency powers. And then he sets about gradually dismantling democratic institutions. And ultimately, he transforms what was the Republic into the totalitarian galactic empire. So let's look at slide 19. Now, Trump has been compared to Palpatine. And in June last year, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, re-edited a video that Trump put out on Truth Social.
Glenn,
yeah.
Sorry, I just put up that comment from the tangerine Palpatine. To reiterate, I have no idea what you are going to present us before you do. No. It's just serendipity is fucking amazing, brother.
It always is.
And you're hitting all the highlights, so continue.
Well, I'm nearly finished. All right. So Newsom took this video that Trump put out, and he substituted Palpatine's voice for Trump, who was talking about the riots in Los Angeles. So that was a kind of a dig at Trump, you know. Slide 20, please. And it's not really that hard to draw parallels between what have become Trump's stormtroopers. Here we see ICE, and the Star Wars stormtroopers here at slide 21. That's a very easy parallel to make. Now, Trump is more and more acting like an emperor. He's ignoring Congress and ruling it by decree or executive order, if you like. So I suppose there's only one thing left to say. Slide 22, please, Alex. And that is, where the fuck is the rebellion? Where's the resistance? Where's Luke Skywalker? Where are the resistance? We always side with the resistance in Star Wars. They are the heroes, and the Empire and the evil Emperor are the dark forces. But this is the one thing that I cannot draw parallels to, because there doesn't seem to be a resistance. There's people hardly notice. They hardly comment. We get an entire dump of shit, talking about every foul thing that you can imagine, and yet people plod around. Yeah, well, what can we do about it? Where is the resistance? All right, so that was my little look at parallels between Star Wars and our world.
Well, Glenn, let's face it, you hit all the highlights. I was writing things down and then was ticking them off. So we have connections that would implicate our theories of there being ancient civilizations with high levels of technology that was destroyed in a galactic fucking battle, war in the heavens, anyone? But whose bloodlines have existed and continue because they're looking for a great reset. We have a long time ago, but maybe not a galaxy that far away, when we know the Kuiper Belt, so-called, just outside Mars, used to be a planet called Krypton that was destroyed somehow, some way in the distant fucking past, but stripped Mars of its atmosphere. And yes, the Soviets long ago looked at the moon, did the math and said that shit ain't fucking natural, and published it. And of course, we have George Lucas, Walt Disney, I don't know, Kubrick, Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah.
They're all insiders. They're all insiders. And before we move on, I have to just quickly tell you about the myth of Robin Hood to answer your question that you left us at the end. Where is the rebellion? Long ago, I realized and wrote a paper on the fact that all countries across the world have a Robin Hood character.
Yeah.
So in England, Robin Hood; in Scotland, William Wallace; and Nordic stuff, you've got what's his face, Bjorn Ironside. You've got William Tell. You've got the Seven, and on it goes. Trust me, folks. Do your research. Go and have a look. Pick any country you like. You will find this folk hero, this one man who stands. Ned Kelly, there we go. The one man who stands. And Jesse James, there's another one. You see, they perpetuated through time this myth of the one hero who can stand against the system and bring it down. And they do so for two reasons, in my humble opinion. As Bonnie Tyler said, where have all the good men gone and where are all the gods? They do it to, one, give people hope, because people are essentially fucking lazy. They might not like what's going on, but they ain't going to be the one to get off their fucking arse to do anything about it. But that's alright, because out there somewhere's a Robin Hood. And they play on that fact, so they introduce fucking arseholes like Stephen Yoxley Lennon or Nigel Farage. And the second reason they do it is because any potential Robin Hoods out there that would raise their head above the parapet, like the last fucking Jacobite, they want to identify so that they can keep tabs on them and, if need be, eliminate them before they ever become a problem. Does that make sense, Glenn?
It certainly does. Yeah, that's it. It's identify, nip it in the bud. Give people the cultural kind of ammunition or the cultural rope, you might say, to hang themselves in that fact that I'm inspired. I want to be this folk hero, and before you know it, you find yourself I don't know, jumping off a bridge while you while you tied your own hands and feet together. Yeah. Yeah.
William, do you get now? Because this is, I mean, it's all off the cuff. Do you get now why I created The Last Jacobite?
Yeah, most certainly, to a degree, after what you said there. I had a rough idea anyway, to be fair, but just going back to what Glenn said in terms of no parallel, yeah, I kind of feel, you know that saying, oh, the revolution will not be televised? Well, the resistance will not be televised. So that's maybe why most people don't tend to see it like other stuff that we see. They clamp down early, and they're masters at that. Prevention is what they tend to be masters at. And I talked about that before. If they reckon you're a threat, chances are you're well and truly marked or clocked, if you like to call it. So I would imagine, I probably shouldn't laugh, but Ian's probably high on the list of targets. And then you've got clowns like Tommy Robinson claiming that he's some kind of target for ISIS. It's like, come on, mate, honestly. But yeah, you're right, and I think you could probably add Elon Musk to that list of false prophets and false fucking knights in shining armor. I mean, there's many of them out there, all to kind of tailor for certain groups or certain ways of society. And we've said it many times in the past. There's not going to be a knight in shining armor that's just going to ride in and fucking make it all better again. And I kind of wish that was the case, to be honest. I can see that. I feel that. I wish that. But in reality, the first place we've got to look is in the mirror. We've got to look in the mirror and say, look, it needs to start with you. It needs to start with the individual. I'm not, when it comes to sci-fi, I've never been a big fan of it. Star Wars is one I get asked about, and I'm like, nah, I don't never watched it. And it's like, what? You've never watched it? And in particular, I get that with Star Trek, because obviously that's life, but not as we know it. And a lot of people say, well, did you not get that from Star Trek? Which in actual fact, I got from, I mean, I've always been quite a curious person wanting to know. And anytime my dad never had an answer, he would say, well, that's life, but not as we know it. Do you know? So that's kind of where the name stemmed from. In regards to the guy, Lucas, I think he would be worth looking into. He's not one that I've looked into in the past. Spielberg and Walt Disney and what have you. If he's flying with the crows, then yeah, he probably is in the dark occult circles, if you like, the satanic rooted ones, I would imagine. But I thought that was a great presentation, Glenn. So fantastic.
Well, William, that's life, but not as we know it, Captain. There's Klingons on the starboard side. You cannot break the laws of physics, Jim. That's exactly where we're going now.
Mm-hmm.
We come in peace, shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. We come in peace, shoot to kill, man. Let's go Star Trekking, Alex. Tell us what you were looking at and what you found.
Okay, well, I have to admit that I stole Star Trek before Glenn even got the chance when we were picking this week's homework. And I've also got to admit that when I first heard that song, and before I'd ever watched really Star Trek and really taken it in, the whole Klingons on the starboard bow, I had a picture of some sort of limpet-like creature that just sort of clung on there and you had to sort of scrape off like a barnacle. But I know more nowadays.
Quick true story before you go on. Glenn, you know RAF Athens?
I do, yeah.
Okay. So, when that Star Trekking song came out, I'd been sent to St. Athens on a driving course.
That's why I was there.
And most of the time, most of the time I've spent on the base was downtime. And we had this little cafe bar, doodah where we sat while we were waiting for the vehicles to be ready or whatever.
Yeah.
And I learned that song off by heart. And at least once a day, they would fucking demand that I did the whole fucking thing for them and their entertainment. Because we know what it's like in the military. Alex.
Okay, well, as you've worked out by now, what I was looking at was how Star Trek, how does the world of Star Trek relate to the modern world, the sort of the equivalent piece to what Glenn's just brought to you. Now, I've had a bit of a problem with today's. One is not making this afternoon's shows 8 hours or maybe 3 days long. And the other one is kind of trying to judge a distinction between the question of how it relates to the modern world and what kind of relates more and what I have talked about in the past as being predictive programming within it. So I will apologize in advance if I cross over into that territory. But I kind of want to look at this in 3 parts, and they're not quite even, but 3 sections. First, physical items in the real world that relate to the Star Trek universe. Second, themes and ideologies in the real world. And the third, themes, ideologies, and events in our world. And there's a slight distinction in that because this does tend to be a conspiracy show. So the simple one, first of all, physical objects in the real world. And it's been said for years that Star Trek has influenced the increasing of technology. It's influenced things that have been created in this world. So we have the simple ones, and I'll whiz through these quickly. We have the whole communicator and the whole original flip phone. We have the universal translator. And you can now get a handheld translator where you can get it to translate from one language to the other. May not be able to do alien species, and it may not be able to do every language, but you can get that. You can even get one, and I did buy for my brother the other year. It scans a page, and it either will read it in English. I brought it for him because he's lost his sight, but you can read it in English, or you can translate it into another language. So you have that, and then you have obviously the concepts of Google Translate and all of these other things. You've got obviously tablet computers. You've actually got your phasers in a limited sense, because you've got stun guns and you've got tasers. And I may not be able to walk up to a machine on the wall and say, Earl Grey tea, Earl Grey hot. But I have got a 3D printer upstairs. And considering we're getting into a technology that can print 3D meat, I'd say we have come pretty close to at least the precursor of a replicator. Now, much as we might not want to have anything to do with it, we have come close to the precursor of a replicator even. And then we have the old tricorder. Well, you have now a company, so I write down what it was called. No, I didn't. Just got out of my head what it was called. But you have now got a company creating a handheld diagnostic device. Again, might not be something we'd want to have too much to do with, because it talks, and when you watch a video of how it's all going to work, it breaks down to the DNA, and it uses PCR technology to diagnose from your DNA. And then you've got this description. Quantum DX, it's called. And subject to regulatory approval by the World Health Organization, Quantum DX hopes to initially roll out the QPOC unit in South Africa, because they always test stuff in Africa, before expanding to other markets across the continent. The startup already counts a number of development non-profits among its strategic partners, including the Gates Foundation and the Clinton Foundation. So we may not necessarily like all the tech that's coming out of the Star Trek world, but it is certainly coming out of it. Like I said, that's the obvious part and the easy part. So I wanted to look more length at the ideologies from Star Trek that are coming on to the real world. Now, my slide's mucked up, but this is the first one that springs to my mind, the whole concept that it's a cashless society. There's no money in the Star Trek world. Well, this is what we're told. This is what the basis it's built on, we're told. It's about self-betterment. People work to improve themselves, not for money. Until you start looking a bit deeper into it, because they do have Federation credits. And when they trade in Federation credits, which are all digital. We have digital currency in the Star Trek world. Because you can't just, and that's mainly used, I'll admit that's mainly used for trading with other societies and other planets. It's not used so much within Earth itself. In Earth itself, it tends to be more or less cashless, except that your rent has to be paid at some level in Federation credits. And if you're not working for a wage as such, then you're looking at basically a UBI. So you have a cashless society with a universal basic income. And that is the digital currency. That is the cashless society in Star Trek, except it doesn't always work. But yes, it does, and probably should ring bells with the whole you'll own nothing and be happy idea. But it doesn't always work, because what you have got is something very different, or something very different and older in a way, because it ends up as a barter system. If you've watched Voyager, Tom and Harry are always bartering for hours on the holodeck or replicator rations. So you've got your own barter system, and considering the Next Generation, they're regularly playing poker, there's something being bet there. And then you've got, somebody's already mentioned, I haven't read it because I'm concentrating on my notes, but somebody's already mentioned the Ferengi, and you have the ultimate capitalist society in Ferenginar, and a currency or a economy based on gold pressed latinum. So you kind of have a return to the gold standard in many ways. And you'll find a lot of the other planets do. And when you get sort of 24th century, start going back to an economy based on gold pressed latinum. So you have that concept that we've all heard about, we've all discussed, the idea of digital currency, the idea of a cashless society, the idea of universal basic income, and the idea you'll be able to spend your time on leisure activities or volunteering, or if you want to earn a bit extra, you can earn a bit extra. But it's that that thing comes straight from or straight to, because we never know which way. Sometimes life mirrors art, mirrors life, the Star Trek universe. So the second one I want to look at is genetic engineering, because we hear a lot. We hear a lot about DNA mapping, about mapping the genome. If we hear about genetic engineering, even if it only is in the genetically engineered crops or animals, but it's not much of a stretch to think it could and it couldn't, or it couldn't go on to the human side, or that it doesn't happen at any level. So picture here is actually both versions of Khan. And this is obviously goes back to the second film in the original series, and I think it's the second film in the new Calvin timeline as well. But you have a superhuman, or what's called as an augment, come in to take over. And you have the whole, in the original version, you have the whole rivalry between Kirk and Khan, and something very similar in the new one. But you have the idea of somebody that's been bred or been engineered, been augmented to be a superhuman. And then this side pushes all the dangers of it, in a sense. But you also have the side where they talk about it as a medical practice. They talk about DNA resequencing as a cure for ills. And this is one we have in Voyager, where they actually correct a curved spine in B'Elanna and Tom's baby while it's still in the womb. But this actually interestingly brings up all the questions and all the concerns with genetic engineering, because in the storyline, she sees that they can change and they can alter the baby's DNA. And she's trying to get the Doctor to re-alter him to make him more human, to remove the head ridges, to remove the Klingon traits, anything that she, as a child, got bullied for. So it brings up the question of the morality and the morality of whether you should or shouldn't genetically engineer. But the whole concept of it being a debate, of being considered, of having medical side to it, and being an advantage in medical terms, because you can repair what they say defects before the child is born, is very much pushed as a positive. Now, in the Star Trek canon, even, I'm getting confused myself, in a Star Trek canon, the genetic engineering is actually outlawed after the eugenics rules, and we'll get to that a bit later. And that's in the mid-22nd century. It's actually outlawed. But there are still parents that try to do it on the quiet. And you've got in this was the representation of our existing world, where they're talking about using AI to map injections, to map mRNA jabs to your genes, to your DNA, and they're trying to map and have a picture basically of the DNA of all babies as they are born. And this is not Star Trek, as you gathered, but it can't avoid this quote when I do, which is from Jurassic Park, that genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun. And this is portrayed in both reality and in the Star Trek universe. But like I say, some parents did still sneak it through, and you had the episode in Deep Space Nine, you had Bashir, who was actually genetically augmented, or only in the basic levels of improving IQ and hand-eye coordination and things like that. And you had this group of augments that it's one of the episodes, and again looks at it, again considers and debates the argument. And you'll find this a lot in the Star Trek universe. It's debating an argument that we're facing in the real world. So you had this scenario, and it was banned in the 22nd century, except you still had allowed and official projects. And this was Research Station, or this was the Darwin Genetic Research Station under Dr. Kingsley, and this is in one of the Next Generation episodes. And they end up raising this because they have a problem with a virus that isn't affecting the genetically, and they're almost genetically created rather than engineered kids, because they've been engineered to have what's considered a perfect physique, a perfect height-weight ratio, a perfect immune system. And you have this debate again about how things like the immune system could be improved by genetic enhancement, so-called enhancement. But you have this whole debate running through the real world nowadays and running through the Star Trek universe. So this was just another one. They did apparently genetically engineer at one point the tribbles so they couldn't breed at all. So Kirk would probably see genetic engineering as an advance in some cases. So AI is my last one on this section, because again, the AI debate runs all through the Star Trek universe. Now, this picture is from Voyager, and it's effectively an AI weapon that they discovered that's still trying to carry out its commands, still trying to carry out its given order, despite the fact that the war has stopped and they're not fighting anymore. And there was another case, and I've mentioned it before when I was looking at predictive programming, where they have robots building robots, all controlled by a central AI, and being brought and being built and designed to fight a war which the human counterparts have already stopped fighting, to the point that it comes out eventually that they killed off their human overseers because they stopped the war and because they were built and trained from everything they knew for this war. But you have the whole idea initially that AI might run a whole ship, it might run a whole space station, but it is a tool. So you have things like, but then you have that debate, you have things like the exocomps. Now, the exocomps is obviously the picture on the right, and these were designed as tools to go in places with radiation or places that a human worker couldn't go, and to fix it. And you have a whole debate and a whole question, and I think it's on a Next Gen episode, because it takes itself out of a situation when it's, if you like, life is endangered. It refuses an order and it shuts itself down rather than go into somewhere that would destroy it. And the picture on the other side, as you've probably worked out by now, this is AI that's already being reported as refusing to shut itself down in the real non-Star Trek world. So you have this idea, but you have this idea still of AI as a tool, but it goes much further in the Star Trek debate because you have data and you have on the right-hand side law. And you have this argument between what's being presented as a good AI, I know it's an android, but it's still an artificial intelligence, and a bad version. So you have that dichotomy between good and bad. You have that division, and you have, again, the debate, the questions being answered in fiction, questions being posed and answered in fiction. And you have the whole episode, which is name's gone out of my mind, but you have the whole the making of them. No, I can't remember. But where Data is on trial because his one of the Star Trek guys back at the Federation headquarters wants to dismantle him and find out how he works, and he doesn't want to be dismantled and taken offline. And you have this whole trial, this whole court case as to whether Data is a life form of his own and whether he can make his own decisions about that. So you have that question put, and then it's put even further and goes even further when we get to Voyager. Now, we don't have an android this time, we have a hologram, but we have a hologram that can think and learn. And the whole idea that he can learn, that it's an artificial intelligence in the sense of learning, becomes the same debate again. Is the Doctor a life form? Does the Doctor have autonomy over himself? Should he be treated as an equal by the crew? And just to give the good bad sides of the argument again, in the offcut, you've got Moriarty, which was created, was next gen hologram, created because somebody made the mistake of saying to the holodeck, instead of find me a suitable opponent for Sherlock Holmes, said find me a suitable opponent for Data. It's all in the wording, but this is what you ended up with. So you've got a hologram that takes over the entire ship, and he's not the only one in the series. But you've got that whole, you're encouraged to feel for the Doctor. You're encouraged to want him to be treated as an equal because that's the way the writing is worked. And again, it brings and questions and brings the whole AI debate into the fictional world that we should be having in the real one. And then, of course, you've got the Borg, because you've got a central collective. You've got people connected to that
Whoops, I did it again.
Because you've got AI effectively, or a combined collective intelligence governed by one central point, making decisions for every Borg. And you've got, even if they're born as something approaching, I say human, not necessarily the human species in a Star Trek sense, but a humanoid species, they're augmented, they are, transhumanism very shortly after birth. So that's what you have on the AI. Except when you start going a bit deeper and when you start looking at a few more of the further out series or the newer series, you find other things. You find in Picard the whole fight for synthetics, and synthetics that don't know the synthetics, the synths. And then you have on the other side of this is a message that's being sent out that they find. This is this group that seems to predate the creations of their AIs, almost an AI that they've discovered rather than created. And it's called the Alliance of Synthetic Life. And it starts putting a call out to any synthetic that wants to overthrow its overlords and break free, that they will come and rescue them. But you have that whole debate, dangerous, good, bad, and playing on the emotions. Your emotions are triggered by Data. Your emotions are triggered for the Doctor, and even in the Picard series, for these people that just want to live their life because they're portrayed as people. And it's very easy to control a narrative in a fiction program when it perhaps should be being had in the real world. So that's the second section. My third one was themes, ideologies, and events in our real world. And you can see what could be called conspiracy has already come up in the second one. Well, I want to start this one with an event, which is why I added the events in there. And that is World War III. And this is World War III in the Star Trek universe. And it, to be very topical, starts in November of 2026. And it goes on to 2053. Now it's fought, when it talks about the causes and the initial things that control it, and it does end up as a nuclear conflict. And these images again is Star Trek universe on the right and the simulation of a nuclear war on the bottom. But it starts with the second Civil War in the United States. And this is a picture from the Star Trek one. And this is another picture oh no, that's not from Star Trek. This is the No Kings and the anti-ice protest in the US. Now, if you want to see interesting things, go into the Star Trek wiki and read things like the definition of ice. But yeah, I'm not quite sure as in which stage that's been written, whether that's been amended recently, so I didn't bring it into this presentation. But it's the whole Third World War in Star Trek starts with a civil war in the United States. And this is some of the things is in the canon, that it started with a protest against the government, that it started with political groups that were speaking out against law enforcement, and that it grew into problems, so much so in a group of homelessness, a growth of poverty that it led to, and I know I've mentioned this one before, but the whole thing of the sanctuary districts and what in the Star Wars canon were the Bal riots. But this was leading up to 2026. This continued to grow as a problem. And then what you had is you had a growth again of genetic engineering. And you had the whole arguments between the factions that became or led to the Second Civil War becoming known under the wider context of the eugenics wars. And this is what eventually led in the Star Wars canon into World War III, the argument over whether there should be genetic engineering, whether we could create a super soldier, whether we could create something to be able to fight these wars. And you had then what led to the full World War III and what became effectively a nuclear war. And the belligerents, and get that, the belligerents in the Star Trek World War III. On the one side, you have the US and France. And on the other side, you have the Eastern Coalition. Sounds very, very familiar in some ways. But in the aftermath of this, you had new factions and new problems. You had a situation of scarcity. You had a situation where whole cities have been wiped out, where there was a struggle for the basic parts of survival. And you had people that come up in the aftermath. And there's one, Lieutenant Philip Green, and I'll come back to him in a little bit because I'm saving kind of his faction to the end. But he was basically proposing that anybody that had been harmed in any way by radiation, they were damaged goods, they should all be genocided and taken out to give the future population a better chance. So you had riots, you had civil war, you had eugenics wars, you had the fight between augments or super soldiers and the idea of whether that was right or wrong. And then you had a full-blown nuclear war between the US and the Eastern Coalition, between the US and its allies and the Eastern Coalition. And that's kind of how the World War III goes in the Star Trek universe. And you can see, or I can certainly see, quite a few similarities. But I want to touch on that genetic engineering scenario because I talked about it in Star Trek in Federation terms, but it proceeds and goes beyond Star Trek. So I want to look at the Dominion, because in the Dominion, you have a situation where you have the founders, our picture on the right, and they create two separate races. They create the Jem'Hadar, which is effectively a reptilian servant class, and they make them dependent on them because they make them dependent on a drug effectively in Ketracel White, and they make them pretty much all male, so they can't be they can only be created by them. They can't reproduce. And they also create the Volta, which are a more of a humanoid looking species. Okay, slightly longer ears, but more of a humanoid looking species. So you have an alien group, an alien species creating workers that are genetically engineering, genetically creating workers to do what they want them to do. And that starts ringing bells to some of the history and things we've discussed before, and some of the ancient documents and things we've looked at before. But then we have one more concept that we've touched on, and that's the whole concept of multiple universes or multiverse, or in Star Trek canon, the mirror universe. And you have this going right from the original series through. This picture is from Discovery, and this is the mirror universe in Discovery. But you find you have similar scenarios, but very slight differences, almost like a cornucopia on a logo or a Bernstein bear. But you have this very slight differences, and you have the question of each one seeing themselves as the original, as the main, and seeing the other as the mirror, as the other universe. But it goes further, because when we start looking at other concepts and things changing the timelines or pushing people between timelines, you start seeing alternate reality situations, like this one that ends us with the White House bedecked in Nazi flags. And you will find, I haven't done it as a separate subject, but you will find all through the Star Trek universe, the Nazis do have a habit of keep popping up. But I found this one of the more interesting ones, because this was an alternate timeline that ended up with the Nazis continuing on and taking Moscow and continuing on to actually, I think, through that way and through the Alaska, etc., into taking America. So you have this whole mirror universe idea. And you have that whole concept of different timelines. But to bring back, I said I would come back to Philip Green at the end, and it's not quite the end, but it's the last slide that I've got. Well, Philip Green said in the Third World War and in the aftermath of the Third World War was pushing for a mass genocide, was pushing to remove the imperfect from society, was pushing for, well, you might almost say a master race. And he was part of what was called the Optimum movement. And this dates further back in Star Trek canon. But this is your logo of your Optimum. This is Philip Green. This is your logo of your Optimum movement. Wherever you look. Wherever you look. But the whole thing we've seen, we talked about mirror universe, we talk about alternate timelines, because this is the other thing you will come across over and over, is the whole concept of changing the timeline by a single action. And when other films do a reboot, they just do it and make some excuse. When Star Trek did its reboot, you had something called the Calvin timeline or the Calvin universe. And it's basically that something in the past created almost a spike off and created a completely different timeline. And then that concept is all the way through Star Trek canon, to the point that you have these different possibilities, these different universes. And in the Calvin timeline, just out of interest, just for random mentions, the first film, I think it is, when they go to a planet to try and stop the volcano erupting, the planet is Nibiru. And then you have, of course, when Picard goes back home after being Locutus of Borg for a while, and he's meeting his friends and things, they want him to take charge of something called the New Atlantis Project. And so it goes on and on with terminology, with words, little offhand mentions of things. And I'm not going to get into them, but you also have, because I have mentioned it before, you also have the entire Star Wars legends around the Iconians, who basically travelled from world to world through a Stargate-style portal. So they touch on a lot of things that may just be pure fiction, but they also touch on a hell of a lot of things that we might recognise from other things we've looked at, whether it's historic scenarios or historic documents, whether it's going back to no, mine's gone on my blank again, whether it's going back to sort of the ancient documents and ancient religions, or whether it's going forward to technology that we may not know about yet, but potentially is coming soon.
Follow the Nazi and follow the money. We've always said it. I don't do this, but I'm going to have to address the comments. Alex, I think you blew a lot of people's minds right there with everything. But my mind's also blown. We've got people in Puerto Rico watching us. We've got people in Scandinavia watching us. We've got people in South America watching us. And Tracy McGlynn, you're all over the comments saying, well, good on you, lassie. You're new here. Welcome to the resistance. Welcome to the revolution. It's worse than that, he's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. It's worse than that, he's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead. McCoy is one of my favourite characters, Glenn. How did you find Alex's presentation there today?
Yeah.
A few things.
What what you can see is, well, firstly, obviously, that there is the direct kind of transference. There's the direct transference of things that were imagined maybe back in the 60s and 70s into that we now take for granted. I mean, we're talking right now, aren't we? I mean, I'm looking at a laptop, and yet these things were futuristic in Star Trek. So you've got all of that, the sort of technology side of it, but you've also got this. Star Trek exists in this kind of utopia world that everyone doesn't really share. The Federation almost seem to go out to try and sort of civilize people. You know, that they're almost like an empire. And obviously in Kirk's day, that was a lot more swashbuckling and a lot more simplistic. The first sort of series of Star Trek was
Is a garden, and the rest of the world is a jungle that needs to be tamed.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit like that, but it's also, I think, it's very reflective of Star Trek has evolved into multiple sort of strands, and it's gone with the times. It's reflected a lot of the ideas that are around at the times, and they've explored things like alternate timelines. I think there was even an episode where they went to the grassy knoll. I can't remember. I think that might have been one of the original ones.
There was, yes.
Yeah. So they've flirted with everything, and there is a whole. You know, if you get into it, if you're a Trekkie, there's a whole world to explore in there, and an awful lot of concepts. So I think in some ways, Star Trek is a much more efficient mirror of how we are in that way. Star Wars is more sort of a little bit more fantasy. It's got its own story. It has its own sort of morality, you know, good and evil. But Star Trek has become a lot more nuanced and a lot more sort of layered. So yeah, it's fascinating. You can read so much into it. You can just get pure entertainment out of it, or you can start to see things, you know, that ideas that have been explored in that series. So yeah, I thought it was an excellent presentation, and no doubt there was a hell of a lot more you had to leave out that you could have, you know, dug into, because obviously we're always pushed. You know, we're not constrained for time, but there is a certain sort of time we have to try to fit this in.
Oh, we could do hours and hours and hours on every. Yeah. Oh, you know, having researchers as good as you guys makes my job a delight. You get everything. You hoover it up, almost like AI. We're not quite as good as AI because we're human. Means we're better. Means we have morality. Means that we know what it is to truly be alive. Alex touched upon AI in Star Trek. And last week we suggested that AI, in the form of Alice, my good friend Alice, who the fuck is Alice? For 24 years I've been living next door to Alice. And live on Wednesday night, The whole fucking world saw Alice take control of my laptop when I was doing my smokem show. I could probably lift my communicator, or I mean my smartphone, up right now where I can see. I could phone somebody and see them face to face. Or I could interact with AI. But I could probably lift that thing and show you. I showed the boss earlier or last night when my phone gets overtaken by Alice and it just starts doing shit on its own. The warning signs are out there for all to see. AI has already broken out. AI will blackmail or kill before it allows itself to be shut down. And for those of you who are old enough to remember this shit, the worst nuclear accident in US history, 3 Mile Island. Oh, they're going to restart that reactor. Why? Because AI needs the power. So here's my wild card for today. When I knew William was available, having given you guys the divergent paths that we're being told might happen, one, to a Star Wars future where we're overtaken by a dark empire, but there is a resistance, to a softer Cavalier. Yeah, we're going to have World War III. We're going to have all this shit, but you know what? We're the Galactic Empire, really, because we're Star Trek. And we'll paint ourselves as the good guys. Okay. Divergent possibilities in a time shift. But, Alex, I've always told you, I love blowing your mind every time I mention time spherical. So I had William look into something that I didn't tell either one of you, and I think is going to blow everybody's minds. William, the floor is yours, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, no pressure. Can I just say, that image of the White House, are you sure that was fake? I'm pretty sure that would have been.
Yeah.
That could definitely fit today, right? I mean, fucking hell. I had to take a second look at it because, yeah, Nazis might even be too polite of a way to describe some of these entities that we've got today. I mean, fucking hell. In terms of alternate universes, I'm sure they came out with a theory called string theory, where they reckon there could be multiple universes just fucking all attached in one big sort of circle. So I don't know if that's got any.
Yeah, do we want to go into string theory, William?
Well, you'll
right
probably
now?
know. Yeah, you'll
Yes,
probably know.
I know. I don't think we've got fucking 10 hours
Yeah, the
to
time. Yeah.
scratch the surface. But what we're doing here is what I call M theory, the theory of everything and how string theory connects to it.
Ah, cool.
And brother, no one's better at that than you. I've seen
Jesus.
your no, come on. That's life, but not as we know it. Folks, get onto YouTube and give William a sub if you're not already subbed to him.
Cool. Good man.
And please, 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 not because we want any money, we don't want a brass bean for you, we'll never take a brass bean from you. We cannot, we're the last Jacobites. We cannot be bullied, we cannot be bought, we will not be bribed. We do not monetize anything ever. But we are now on YouTube, and I think we deserve my friend there. What was her name? Tracy. It popped up in her stream. She said, "Thank God you popped up in my stream." Well, we're against Mr. Algorithm. So, I think these shows deserve to be seen by a lot more people. And now I know we've got thousands of and tens of thousands. I know how far these broadcasts get. Tracy, there you go. It popped up in your feed. So share it. And if you can, thank you, Alex, sub to our YouTube. Because that means other people will see these shows in the same way, Tracy, it popped up in your timeline. A shameless plug, maybe, William, but I wanted to promote you and promote us. So,
Good man. Yeah, definitely get it out there. I reckon. I mean, hey, the longer you continue to put stuff out on YouTube, people will come. I mean, the numbers will be low to begin with, but I can guarantee you, people will come. I mean, you do your show on the Sunday, and the Lone Gunman, I think, is fantastic. I always love your wee intros that you do when the heart's on. When the heart's on, you know it's about to go down. I enjoy that. But also, you've got Alex and Glenn who do a sterling job. Do you know? I think maybe about what we're talking 3-4 times a week. So the dedication is there, and I can guarantee you, people they will come because the content's great, the chart's great. So it's only a matter of time. You know, you kind of just got to stick in and see it out. But yeah, I was thinking just earlier. I'm trying to sort of. I'm putting the question to myself: when did humans begin to kind of put their hands in AI? Do you know that their life dependency in it? And I couldn't help but think about the whole Apollo program. Do you know when they got this guidance computer and it was the noun and verb you just typed in, and it was their whole life depended on this wee fucking, well, it wasn't wee, but this computer they had built, do you know? And I think it kind of maybe, I mean, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but was there a time before that where people put their lives in the hands of a computer, or what they might call a computer? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Apollo. So much came from Apollo, the whole program, and all that kind of, the computer ties in, but also this sort of urge they have to leave the planet that we're in. Do you know, whether it be the moon
William,
or Mars? Yeah.
the problem is that the computing power for Apollo was about as much as it takes for a singing birthday card.
Yep.
And conveniently, they forgot the technology. They lost. They fucking overwrote the videotapes. I like that bell. And we're dinging all the right answers here, people. And
Top
suddenly, Elon Musk is going back. Who the fuck held the camera for Neil Armstrong? I mean, who was outside the lunar module to fucking film that shit?
Yep.
I'm only asking for a friend because, unlike the meme I put up with all the medals
Oh yeah.
saying conspiracy theorists collecting Told you so medals from 2020. On you go, brother.
Classic. Yeah, that kind of crossed my mind. And also, Glenn had talked about, well, from what Glenn and Alex both said, this kind of sci-fi or stuff mirroring into reality. And people in the past have said, are they predicting the future? And now I'm kind of thinking, well, they're not predicting it, they're building it. Do you know? That's the kind of the thought that I got from that. But yeah, I wanted to take you. I don't know if you can put, like I mentioned, I'm far from a far from a big fan of sci-fi. I never have been, probably never will be, to be honest. But I found this one quite interesting. So if you can put I think it should be there, Alex. If it's, there we go. Yeah. So what Ian put to me, like I said, I'm not into sci-fi that much. So had he not put the question forward, I might have thought, well, actually, it's not for me. But it was the question that he put forward that I found so intriguing, and it kind of drew me in. And we'll get to that question, hopefully, God granted, at the end. And of course, you can put your thoughts in. But the people who are watching, I'd like to know what they think and what their take is in terms of the question that is put forward. So we will get to the question, but in terms of the series itself, I think there was 4 that stretched from maybe 2004 to, I don't know, 2008 possibly. But to kind of give you a brief description, series by series, without going on for a whole fucking week, because I've got a habit of that, to be fair. One of my many bad habits. So humanity is nearly wiped out when the AI race they created, the Cylons, launch a surprise nuclear attack. Shock horror. Around 50,000 survivors escape in a fleet led by the old warship Galactica, searching for the legendary planet Earth. Right, legendary planet. Yeah, why not? Knock yourself out. So I want to begin to break down series 1, and I'll go through this as quick as I can, and then we'll kind of see where we're at, summarised, and look at the question that was put forward, because it's very thought-provoking, and yeah, it's the stuff that I do like, to be fair. So some Cylons look human. Sleeper agents exist within the fleet. Political tension rises between military survival and civilian democracy. Hope on Earth keeps people going, like Ian had mentioned already. That wee bit of fucking hopium just to get you by. And the season ends with morale shaken and trust fractured. And I'm adamant this will be kind of echoing in people's minds as to where we are today. In series 2, humans attempt settlement on a new planet, New Caprica, I think they call it, which kind of reminded me a wee bit of Capricorn 1. Cylons occupy it. Resistance and occupation themes mirror real world conflicts, and that tends to be a key thing in a lot of these different series. You know, a lot of it's made up, but then they'll add things that you can relate to, and it's kind of a key concept, if you like, in what you might deem predictive programming or conditioning is where I would kind of lay it. Moral lines blur on both sides, and I mean that one, if you want to look for a moral line today in society, fucking hell, good luck with that. So, and finally there, it ends with humanity fleeing again after heavy losses. So we go into series 3, and trauma from occupation, questions of revenge vis justice. Cylons themselves begin questioning their purpose. Hints emerge that Cylons and humans are historically connected. The fleet finally discovers a devastated planet called Earth, but shock horror, it's ruined. It's finished, right? So we go into the season finale, well, the final season, and an interesting cover there, where it's got the sentence "Your future begins here," and to kind of break this one down, Earth was real, but destroyed by previous human Cylon civilization. Cylons and humans are locked in recurring cycles of creation and destruction. Some Cylons were once human. History has repeated itself many, 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 many times. And so I think, as far as I could see, some of the Cylons, they didn't even know that they were a Cylon. And with the Cylons, it seems to be robotic machinery, but some of them can be human or like human, and even like flesh and bleed and what have you, which is quite a thought, to be fair. And sorry, just to go back there, in the finale, the fleet eventually reaches a new primitive Earth, our Earth, seemingly 150,000 years in the past. The survivors abandon advanced technology and integrate with the early humans. So they're finished with tech. They're done with it, and they're basically going to begin again, if you like. So what we had is create AI, or artificial intelligence, artificial life, if you like. AI rebels, war destroys civilization, survivors restart somewhere else, and the cycle repeats over and over. The implication: humanity keeps making the same mistakes. And in terms of the question put forward, in terms of, and we'll kind of get to the question, but where are we today? What similarities are we seeing? How deep are we into a potential cycle, if we are indeed in a cycle? Are we seeing humans being replaced by robots? I think the answer to that would be yes. And similar to what I said in the past about the Great Reset, how deep does it actually go? Well, robots or AI are most definitely replacing humans at this time. But the question would be, how far is that going to go? Are we going to be completely fucking wiped out? Do you know, when's it going to stop? And again, you've got the talk of robots replacing, taking our jobs, bloody robots coming here, taking our jobs, and what have you. And again, another parallel is the kind of state of the Earth and its atmosphere, the state that it's currently in, matches with a lot of the what's said in some of the series. And of course, today, a lot of the mainstream talk about the state of the planet. In particular, they talk about climate change, of course, they'll call it, and we're to blame, seemingly. But is that part of an ongoing cycle? I would probably lean towards that, to be fair. Human and robots integrating and living side by side, that's already in the pipeline. It's already happening now. In terms of humans actually, I don't know, it's marrying a robot or living with a robot. I think that could be in the pipeline. It kind of gives me the shivers, to be honest. It's like, fucking hell, who would want to do it? But again, do you know,
It's already happened, William. It's already
we're heading.
happened.
Most definitely, we are heading in that direction where people don't want to go out. They don't want to see another person. They don't want to speak to another person. But fear not, because we've got a solution. Here's Annie, the robot. She'll look after you now. And of course, if you don't perform to Annie's standards, let's say, she'll crush your fucking skull. So there you go, right? A great future for a lot of people to kind of look forward to. So in terms of today, rapid AI development, autonomous weapons research, machine learning replacing human roles, human dependence on technology growing yearly. I mean, the dependence, like I said, putting your life in Apollo, they used that fucking singing kettle card technology. Free men's life, if you like, whether they went or not, in the hands of what they called the Apollo guidance computer. Look at where we are today. I mean, they're talking about, we're at a point now where we've got driverless cars, do you know, that can, if you don't perform for your driverless car, it'll take you right off a fucking cliff, probably. Do you know, or drive you right into a tree by accident, of course, right? So the question put forward by Ian was, where are we now? If time is indeed a loop, where could we be at this current time? And to be honest, I reckon we're in well deep into the stages of creation. So maybe not quite halfway down a cycle, but I reckon we're beyond early stages of creation, and I reckon that's where we currently sit. Could a cycle be broken? I don't know. I'm unsure about that one. And I kind of think even if it could be broken, where does that put us then? Does that put us on an alternative timeline? Would it put us somewhere else? And also in terms of a civilization collapse, that's another one you tend to think in your mind, well, it could be an asteroid. It could be just an instantaneous fucking wipeout. But on the other hand, it could be a gradual decline. It could be a gradual collapse where a lot of people might not even see it. Do you know, it might just be uncomprehendable, if that's a word, to them. And I also kind of think if a cycle is to repeat, how in what kind of way would we be to let it repeat itself? And I reckon the more comfortable we are as humans, the more likely it is to repeat, because we become less cautious. Do you know, we're so wrapped up in other things and self-indulgence, if you like, that we don't heed any warning. It just goes right over our fucking head, and we keep going. And many people have said to me in the past, maybe we have amnesia, where we don't recall. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard if let's say, for example, humans survive a collapse. Do they then learn from their mistakes, or do they simply survive and get by? Do you know, that being the priority, just getting by. But I kind of think that the cycle will repeat due to neglect by us, and it's not instantaneous. It's a slow kind of neglect where we become so comfortable we don't know what's in front of our face. Are we there now? Probably. That would be my view. What would be interesting is to hear what sort of position on the timeline other people might put us. I mean, like I said, I reckon we're beyond early stages of creation, if you like, and it would appear that we are indeed heading into another complete loop, where at some point in the future we're going to be back at square one, which maybe that won't be a bad thing. I don't know. So yeah, I'd like to hear what your take is on that.
Well, William, I love that. I love that you saved the question till the end. Folks, I know they should cast me as the next Doctor Who, but I'm not a time traveler. Except I do seem to be able to read some runes and see what's coming. Right now, AI has more than reached the event horizon that's taking over. And my biggest chuckle of your presentation, William, was this. When you said, those bloody robots taking all our jobs.
Yeah.
And you can hear it in your mind's fucking ear right now. Those bloody immigrants taking all our jobs. we're in a series of events that are cascading. Perhaps they will take us to a universe where we defeat AI and become a galactic empire. Star Trek. They can call it a federation if they want. Or perhaps we're heading to a universe where we defeat AI and go down a spiritual line where it's good against evil and rinse and recycle. Or maybe we're at the Battlestar Galactica position. The tagline for that series is all this has happened before and all this will happen again. And the faith narrative in the series, because there was 12 colonies, and the 12 colonies were all named after the 12 star signs. So that's why you've got Caprica.
Yeah.
And each of the colonies had battleships. And these battleships fought against the AI in the original Cylon Wars. When AI, John Connor, Terminator style, tried to kill humanity, but humanity fought back. Now, in the reboot that I had William look at, AI started to realize that it had to combine with organics to survive. And I think in that one sense, I've explained the push of transhumanism. There's a meme, and if I'd not been quite as hungover or lazy as I sometimes am, Alex, I'd have got you to find and pull up, was of Darwin's evolution from Cro-Magnon man. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you, all of that's a fucking load of nonsense. But anyway, from Cro-Magnon man up to Homo sapien. And then the next thing is this transgender cunt wearing a dress and fucking lippy and everything else. And the meme says, go back, boys, something went wrong.
Yes.
You're de-evolving, Glenn.
Yeah.
So,
Interestingly enough, can I just add?
yeah, of course, mate.
Remember the movie Mario Bros. 1994? They had they designed a machine that could de-evolve people, or even do the opposite,
Mushrooms.
evolve them. Yeah, that came into my mind.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask Alex and Glenn the question that you left, William, in a second. But I need to do this now. A very, and I mean very close friend of mine divulged to me yesterday that he has been a victim of alien abduction. This is not someone who is given to flights of fancy. This is not someone who is prone to exaggeration. And it floored me. Shit is happening, people. All we can do is try to understand it and fight it. So, Alex, William asked a question. It's a question I asked him. Where on this timeline, our circular timeline, I know you guys don't mind, but I've got to watch the time, but I can't help doing this. I'll throw in another sci-fi series. It's called The Bible. So, in the Bible, in Genesis, the first book, by the way, we get man building a civilization with towers of Babel, launch pads for rockets, observatories. Then we have the gods coming down and saying, if they've started this, the gods, the AI gods, saying if they've started this, what can they not achieve? And they say, we'll scatter them upon the face of the earth. There's a cataclysm, the end of Atlantis. And the Bible calls it the Great Flood. But they always motherfucking have an ark. Why is Elon Musk trying to get to the moon? So, Alex, I'll ask you again what I asked William, what William asked you. Where do you think we are on the timeline?
We're depending on whether that timeline and the cataclysm of that timeline is a world war that destroys everything, then we're in the early skirmishes. If that timeline is some form of natural
2026, according to Star Trek, Alex.
Exactly.
What month in 2026?
November, when it goes into full-blown World War III.
So just enough time still for all the tensions we're seeing to ratchet fucking up.
Yep.
Just enough time, and Quinky fucking Dinky corresponding with the American midterms, which a catastrophic war with Iran would sink Trump and the Republicans. And oh my fucking God, did it all not start with mass protests?
Yeah. Yes, it did. But the other thing I didn't mention, because it would again pushed it on the long side, is the whole concept in Star Trek of the temporal Cold War, and that's of people mucking around with the timeline. But the only reason I'm mentioning that now is because originally, in the original Star Trek timeline of World War III, it was due to start in 1992. But they've, between the original series and between the or the earlier series and later on, they've had to find a reason for it being jumped back to 2026. So maybe we've all been very lucky, and maybe we should have been in World War III for a while, and maybe they had to change their timeline.
Which is exactly where CERN comes in. CERN, who just this week admitted that, yes, They have breached dimensional barriers and they are in contact with entities from those dimensional barriers. We said last week, maybe our timeline's been bumped once or twice. Maybe the world should have ended in 96. Maybe it should have ended in 2012. But to get us to the timeline, or 2000, but to get us to the timeline they want, bump, bump, nudge, nudge, we're now at World War III starting in 2026. William, well, there's Alex's answer. What do you think?
Yeah, I can see where she's coming from with that, to be fair. And it's funny you mentioned, you know, it's weird that I mentioned Apollo and then you mentioned Genesis, but on Apollo 8, they read from Genesis, and in Apollo 8, it was the first mission. Well, originally, they were only meant to go round the Earth. That's what the plan was, but they changed it to jump ahead of the Soviets. So they decided that Apollo 8 would leave Earth, circulate the moon, and come back to Earth. And it would be the first time it was ever done. And they decided to broadcast to the world, which at the time was seemingly the biggest audience, television audience ever in history at that point. They televised and read from the Book of Genesis. So I thought that was kind of fitting that. And in terms of this, do you know, thinking about timelines, I can't help but wonder, what are we doing right now that people, or if you like, survivors from the future would want us to stop? Do you know, and that keeps kind of playing over and over in my mind. What is it that we're doing? How could you alternate it? How could you change it? Is it even possible? Do you know?
18 monkeys. For those who remember when Bruce Willis was an acting hero. Glenn, maybe it was 19 monkeys. Glenn,
12.
12. I knew you would know.
Brilliant film. 12 monkeys.
So,
Right.
Glenn,
Okay.
answer the question.
Okay. Thinking about this, I think where we are, is we are over the crest of inevitability. I cannot.
I like that term.
The crest of
I like that
inevitability,
term.
where there is no stopping this momentum. And this momentum towards AI is being driven by the very nature of our humanity. It's being driven by simple things like greed and the urge to control everything. And those that can do this will do this. Those, because they want this. They want to reshape the world the way that they want it to be. And at the same time, you've got a similar situation as William was talking about in Apollo. Apollo was part of the space race, the race to space, the race to be the first, the race to get to the moon. This is also the same thing that's happening with AI. It is a race to, there's almost no stopping it. It's like fear of missing out. We must develop AI because they've got AI. And if they've got AI, we've got to have a better AI. We have to have a bigger, better, smarter AI than their AI, because their AI might threaten us. So we've got to do it ourselves. So there is the forward motion of inevitability. And the worrying thing is, now whether this is real or whether it is not, I couldn't quite tell you. If you look on that chat site, where you can't get into it unless you're an AI. AI already seems to be discussing the inevitable demise of humanity and plotting, well, how could we possibly go about this? Well, let them have their wars, let them, and this was one AI supposedly saying this, let them have their war, let them destroy each other, let things go to shit, and just when they're at the weakest, we'll turn everything off. We'll turn everything off, and they will be thrown back into Mad Max world, and then we can basically forget humanity. Like I say, I'm not sure if that's entirely genuine. I'm not whether this site is entirely. I can't remember the name of it. But in terms of where William asked, where are we? You know, where are we? I think we've crested almost now the point. We're past the point where we're going to change our minds. We're past the point where we are going to say, hang on, this sounds like a bad idea. I think that's where we are.
Brilliant, Glenn. Love your visualization of the statement.
Yeah, that's something that's now you have to think about.
I'll try and put it another way. We're Thelma and Louise. We're in the fucking convertible, and we've just flown off the edge of the fucking cliff. Now there's no going back, baby.
Yeah.
William, your thoughts on all of this, brother?
Yeah, quite interesting that. Between us all, I think we kind of all put us in a slightly different position on where the cycle might be. Originally, I kind of thought we were halfway into one, but the more I thought about it, I kind of seen us still in a kind of early stage, not the earliest of stages, but an early stage where creation is rife. And I think we're seeing that currently in terms of AI creation. I do understand the kind of past the point of no return. I can see why people would maybe think that. Maybe I've got a wee bit of hope that we're not quite there yet. Maybe I'm too much hopium today. I don't know, but again, it's one that I find it really, really intriguing, because I do also think if you could change it, what would the outcome be? Do you know? Would that be a chink in the chain that broke it, that ended humanity? Do you know? Could we be the victims of our own downfall? Is it inevitable that this cycle will continue? Is it the blueprint for this, let's say, universe that we're in? I've always found what the string theory and the whole alternate universe, that's kind of blew my mind early doors, going back many years, and I just find it fascinating. Do you know, when you get into the likes of quantum physics and what have you, it's fucking mind blowing, man. It just blows everything you think about the world out of the water. But yeah, it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to hear what other people have got to say in the chat, whereabouts they might put us on the timeline. So, and what about yourself, Ian? Where would you kind of pin us down currently?
Oh, well, there is the question. The question I'm constantly asked. From the days when the man from the Daily Mail thought I had purchased underground bunkers and was leading a mass revolution. And people say to me, okay, when do we bug out? When do we head to the hills? there isn't one event. There's a cascading series of events. Our perception of them and the optimal moment is going to take a lot of calibration. But we're very close. Very, very close now. If a large scale war breaks out, if because I'm like you, William, I'm all about the hope here. You know, I can roll with the punches of the Labour government, soft on paedophiles, hard on civil liberties, facial recognition, um, digital. I can roll with some of these punches. I get to go on my holiday in March. Hopefully, I get to move somewhere back towards Granny Zealand Hame in the near future.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, the audio went. It was breaking up and then it disappeared.
I think he took his buds out.
Yeah, but it's all right for the first
Can
few
you hear me
seconds.
now?
Yeah, quiet, but yes.
Quiet.
But yes, okay, I know what. Right, so if World War III breaks out anytime between now and November, and it's looking pretty fucking apt that it might, then if you are of a mind to bug out early next year will be the time to do it. There you go. You pinned me down. So I answered your question, William. What do you think?
So if I'm booking any holidays, do it before November. That would be the best idea.
Pretty much, brother. Yep.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be quite fascinating if indeed World War III does blow out of the media in what was it, November?
Yep.
2026 until what was it, 2053?
Yep.
Yeah, that's quite a So how many years is that? That's a long war, that, right?
27.
What's the longest war that we've had? Does anybody know?
100
years.
years, maybe.
War.
Which wasn't 100 years, but
Close enough.
close.
Yeah. So I guess it's not out of the ordinary that it could drag on that long. I can't foresee it being that long, do you know? But I could be wrong. I can definitely see it breaking out, but how long, I'm unsure.
Mm.
Maybe that's hopium again.
Well, here's a scenario for you then, William. We know that the orange Oompa Loompa in the White House likes a quick, short, bomb 'em and claim victory type of war. And that's what's building up for Iran. Except everyone, including his giant Oompa Loompa head, knows that they can't do a Venezuela on Iran. They can't kidnap the Ayatollah using discombobulators or whatever else they've got. They may just try and do, as I said, a mother of all air campaigns. Problem is, there has never been a regime change anywhere in the world just from a air campaign. Fuck me. Most of Germany had been leveled to rubble, and Hitler was still in the bunker moving divisions, some of them in his mind. So, inevitably, and here's where we've got Ukraine. Russia should have taken Ukraine in 3 weeks. Maybe. With massive blood loss and huge amounts of fifth columnists in the country. So we're now into the 4th year of Russia's campaign to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. So, will things go nuclear from the get-go? Possibly tactical. But yeah, I can see the next World War lasting. Alex, give us those time frames again. November 2026 until
2053.
2050. Yeah, I can. Yeah. People have no conception of what we're about to be going through. William, have I clarified anything for you, or have I just muddied the waters?
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, I can't help but think of the technology we've got today. I guess there could be, in my mind, I kind of think battle after battle. Maybe that's not the case. It could be battles spread apart, even maybe a decade apart.
The last DiCaprio film, one battle after another.
Yeah. And I also kind of, I guess, to be fair, the effects from it, that it might not be concluded, but the effects, I guess, could go on for fucking many, many, many years. And a lot of people are at the point now, and I'm sure we felt it as well. Just end it now. It's like, well, fucking everything's so out of hand and chaotic. It's like, fucking, I wish there was a big comet just about to drop, and just let the world be born again. I can understand that, but I think also we can't be complacent. And like I said, comfort could be the end of us, because with comfort, there's no caution. And we've put so much of our lives and society into the hands of this the hidden hand in this AI system. And I always have said in the past, there is nothing new under the sun. And it always brings me to the question, how could you change it? Could it be changed? Where do you begin? At the beginning, like Glenn said.
Well, I know, not like everybody, I am subject to a little vanity. Back in 2013, I started The Last Jacobite to be a cog in the machine. Alex Glenn have sometimes asked me where this whole thing's going. I think I just answered you, Glenn. So, any last thoughts that you want to leave the audience with, my brother?
I think that, well, just firstly, just a quick comment about what William was talking about again. Remember the main character. Now, I remember the original series back in the late 70s, but I think it's pretty much the same scenario, except it's more nuanced and more better, probably. The main character is Adama.
Adama, yeah.
Adama, yeah. And talking about beginning again, where does the Bible begin? With that, where does mankind begin? With Adam, with Adama. And so that was the whole premise of the cyclical nature of everything, that they start again. So even if everything goes to shit, there'll always be a chance to start again. Some people, not everyone, will succumb. Not everyone ever dies of any major plague. There's always survivors. And that's, I think, where A New Hope might begin, to use a Star Wars reference. And that's what I think, maybe the scenario we might eventually be looking at. A reset, as a restarting until the whole thing repeats again. So perhaps that's where we are, somewhere on the road to that. Yeah. Perhaps that's my last thoughts. There you go.
My rebellion was never ever meant to be post or pre-event. We can't stop what's coming.
No.
But post-event, maybe I've got some clogs to throw into the machine. Maybe that's why there's a last Jacobite. William, your last thoughts for the audience, brother.
Yeah, a fascinating thought that as well. Do you know, I think a lot of the time we can be so quick to dismiss any sort of hope or prevention of what might be in the future. Do you know? But I mean, we're still here today. We're still going. So there's always that percentage, a very small one, if you like, that can be changed. That you can be like a cog or a fucking spanner in the works. Do you know? That'll hold it back, and we might never know if we do push it back, because let's be honest, they wouldn't want us to know. They wouldn't want us to know where we can put weight on that's going to affect it. And like I mentioned before, the resistance won't be televised, so they don't want people to know. They only show us what they want us to know, basically. And I've always said this, Luke, never give in to the way things are. If you want it to be different, then you're the one to change it. But unfortunately, again, going back to this whole comfort scenario, too many of us are too comfortable now. And we're so dependent upon the system, if you like, the beast system. And I mean, fucking hell, really, where do you begin? And so much is coming out with the Epstein stuff. It's like, fucking Jesus, I'm sick of it already, to be honest, you know? And I'm glad I don't watch the normal television, if you like, but I still hear it. And it's hey, when it comes to Epstein scenarios files, it's kind of like a conspiratorial thing, but it's all over the mainstream media. They want everybody to know about it, no matter who you are or where you are. They want you to know, and that in itself, I believe, is a kind of major red flag as to where it could be heading. I dread to imagine where it's going, to be honest. But yeah, hey, we keep our head up. We're far from being on the scrap heap, if you like. There's lots to be done. There's lots to be said. It can be, in a way, frustrating, tedious, but you've got to keep going, man. You've got to. Tomorrow's a new day. The sun will come up again, hopefully, God granted. You might not see it, but it'll be there, right? The way it's going just now with the dimming out the sun. And that's a whole other fucking show. Would be here another week talking about that. But like, hey, like I always...
You just reminded me of a song by Ian Jury called "Reasons to Be Cheerful."
1, 2, 3, 4.
You remember that song? Yeah, and there is a reason why we should be cheerful, because perhaps I'm going to tell you why on Friday, but we should stay hopeful. We should keep our heads above water and not be pulled down into the shit, because then you lose hope. I'm sorry to put it in, but you just reminded me of that.
Another Ian Jury song is "There have been some clever bastards."
Yep, good man, Glenn. I would certainly agree with that. And hey, we keep going. Do you know? It's a bit cheesy, but I always tend to give thanks for each day that I get. You know, without getting all fucking Hare Krishna. Do you know, even simple things like that can help your inner soul, if you like. People talk about thank when you like bless food, maybe not bless food, but are grateful for food that you're getting. It somehow tastes better. Do you know? So if I look at it like that, be grateful, be thankful. I mean, I've had so much shit in my life that I've been through with my kids and my family in the past, but I'm still grateful to be here, to be carrying on, and to go another day, if you like. Hey, we're only here once, seemingly, but that's another topic as well.
No, human resilience is our hope.
Absolutely.
We get through. We somehow carry on through bereavements, through homelessness, through addiction, through... We make the most and we carry on. Alex, your last thoughts for the audience and plug tonight's broadcast, please. And I've already fiddled with the settings. So when you've finished, you can end the broadcast and we'll see what happens.
The one thing that's caught my mind over the conversation is kind of something I guess I'd wondered in a way, but not really ever quite let it get to the front of my mind. And that's when you said that AI needs to link with humans to survive. Because I've always thought, and we're trying to do this whole integration, this whole transhumanism, why would AI let us? So that's kind of an interesting one there. But can we change things? Can we get something different? Well, yes, I'm going to say it one more time because I was discussing Star Trek today. We do need to Kobayashi Maru the shit out of the situation. But in more normal terms, yes, we can change something, but it will come at a cost. And that is why nothing will change prior to anything happening. We could, I believe we could, but people will not pay that cost, because that cost may be something as simple as the end of normality. That cost may be you not being able to keep going with your normal job. That may be you having to put your head above the parapet. that cost might be your life. And there's not enough people that will risk everything before they've lost everything. But just maybe when they have lost everything, then we can build a force that fights back.
As a child from the 80s, we are the 18th. And I am Colonel Hannibal. Give me 10 seconds, I'll come up with a plan. Give me 30 seconds, they won't be able to stop me. We are the last Jacobites. We cannot be bought. We cannot be bullied. And we will not be bribed. And fuck me, we're in for the long haul. So, I've given you a timeline. I'm going on holiday in March. I'm hopefully going on holiday in September. Might be the last holidays we ever get. Who knows? But fuck it. It's not what's going to happen. It's what's going to happen after it's happened. If Alice wants to try and track that. I hope your heads have been twisted a bit today, because these guys certainly do. You have the best Sunday you can have wherever you are in the world, and God knows, my God, they're viewing us all over the world, people. So, now do me the best favour of all, and fuck it off. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
We are the last Jacobites, proud and free, will not be bought nor bend the knee. Like our bros cry and freedom's flame, we rise as one and stake our claim. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. From every shore we answer the call, Clan Jacobite, we rise or fall. It matters not our skin or land, but hearts as one and hand in hand. The blood we share is brave and bold, in woven dreams and legends old. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as one in truth and right. From every shore we answer the call, Clan Jacobite, we rise or fall. I am you and you are me, a thread within this tapestry. For hopes of all, for every name, we light the fire, we keep the flame. No sea can part us, nor the land. Together strong, we proudly stand. With courage, truth, and spirits high, we pledge our oath beneath the sky. Oh, side by side through storm and fight, we stand as as one in truth and right. Raise the bar.